Good morning, Coyote leaders. Today is our award ceremony. This year has definitely been different than any other year, but there's a lot to celebrate, and that's exactly what we are going to do right now. Celebrate. All of you have worked hard all year long, but today we're going to celebrate some of you with some special awards. So let's get started. Our first award is going to be for mathematics. All right, so starting with, from Mrs. Gomez and Miss Alhilu's class, Luis Ayon. From Mrs. James' class, Caden Verano. From Maestra Gallardo's class, Iker Tinoco. From Mrs. K's class, Ian Garden. From Mrs. Fong's class, Bella Nguyen. From Maestra Garcia's class, Sofia Salazar. From Maestro Aguilar's class, Guillermo Charbel Giovanni Alejandro Serrano. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Jessie Fajardo. From Mrs. Overby and Miss Manzanilla's class, Ingrid Arciosa. From Maestro Renjifo's class, Isaac Toro. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Gary Jim. From Mr. Duong's class, Leslie Garcia. From Miss Sin's class, Dennis Escobar. And from Mr. Britton's class, Neil Huynh. Congratulations to all our math winners. Moving on to our next award. Our next award is for science. So here are our science winners. From Maestra Gomez and Senora Miss Alhilu's class, Austin Schmidt. From Mrs. James' class, Theodoro Alvarez. From Miss Senora Gallardo's class, Benji Rindy. From Mrs. K's class, Sebastian Hernandez. From Mrs. Fong's class, Kaylani Gonzalez. From Maestra Garcia's class, Ascension Cepeda. From Maestra Aguilar's class, Hania Huizar. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Tiana Honorith. From Maestra Renjifo's class, Michaela Chavez. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Antonio Villabalso. From Mr. Duong's class, Kadrian Tai. From Miss Sin's class, Yesenia Fonseca. And from Mr. Britton's class, Emiliano de Anda. Congratulations to our science winners. Now, moving on to language arts. Our language arts winners. From Maestra Gomez and Maestra Alhilu's class, Olincio Romero. From Mrs. James' class, Maverick Agreda. From Maestra Gallardo's class, oops, I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm sorry, I read those names wrong. I'm reading the wrong line. Forgive me. We're going to go back for our ELA. Starting from Mrs. Gomez's class, Camelia Tinoco. From Mrs. James' class, Josiah Alhambra. From Maestra Gallardo's class, Luca Celada. From Mrs. K's class, Amia Padilla. From Mrs. Fong's class, Vincent Heredia. From Mrs. Garcia's class, Kimberly Sanchez. From Maestra Aguilar's class, Aaron Portillo. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Quillen Dawson. From Mrs. Overby's class, Philip Vu. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Diego Huizar. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Ingrid Diaz. From Mr. Duong's class, Joanna Ojeda. From Mrs. Sin's class, Mateo Madris. And from Mr. Britton's class, Angelina Garcia. All right. For our music award, let's make sure I got this on the right line. From Maestra Gomez and Maestra Alhilu's class, Yalia Ruano. From Mrs. James' class, Savannah Pablo. From Mrs. Gallardo's class, Oliver Simpson. From Mrs. Garcia's class, Luis Herman. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Sadea Lail. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Diego Quiros. Congratulations to our music winners. Now, for our art award. These are the names from before. So for our art award, here are our winners. Olinsel Romero from Maestra Gomez and Miss Ali Hulu's class. From Mrs. James's class, Maverick Agreda. From Maestra Gallardo's class, Kenneth McLeod. From Mrs. K's class, Nikita Nagy. From Mrs. Fong's class, Aliyah Subia. From Maestra Garcia's class, Ariana Flores. From Maestra Aguilar's class, Melania Alvarez. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Angel Lara de Jesus. From Mrs. Overby and Miss Manzanilla's class, Selah Gonzalez. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Valeria Ramirez and Danielle Teves. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Yen Ho. From Mr. Duong's class, Angela Dat. And from Mr. Britton's class, Josiah Perez. Congratulations to our art winners. And now, our social studies winners. For social studies, from Mrs. James' class, Blake Gonzalez. From Maestra Gallardo's class, Gloria Viveros. From Mrs. K's class, Desiree Lozano. From Mrs. Fong's class, Alexis Pena. From Maestra Garcia's class, Aaliyah Martinez. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Timothy Lynch. From Maestra Renjifo's class, Amy Narillo. From Mr. Duong's class, Jose Munoz. And from Mr. Britton's class, Stacy Miranda. Congratulations, social studies winners. Now, for our technology award. Our tech winners are from Maestra Gomez and Maestra Alhilu's class, Edgar Martinez. From Mrs. James' class, Troy Honorith. From Mrs. Gallardo's class, Nathan Solorio. From Mrs. K's class, Abby Tran. From Mrs. Garcia's class, Helen Huizar. From Mr. Aguilar's class, Sergio Estrada. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Citlali Acosta. From Miss Overby and Miss Manzanilla's class, Jaden Wood. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Brian Ramirez. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Tiago Salazar. From Mr. Duong's class, Jonathan Pena. From Miss Sin's class, Sebastian Palafox. From Mr. Britton's class, Dylan Solorio. And from Ms. Hunter and Mr. Santomaro's class, Master Mailo. Congratulations to our Tech Award winners. Our next award is our Leadership Award. These students showed a lot of leadership this year. They are from Maestra Gomez and Maestra Ahilu's class, Axel Lopez. From Mrs. James' class, Ruby Capote. From Maestra Gallardo's class, Alexandra Pascual. From Mrs. K's class, Callie Blue Haro. From Mrs. Fong's class, Ratnik Mada. From Senora Aguilar's class, Jade Mahangos. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Olivia Capote. From Mrs. Overby and Miss Manzanilla's class, Robert Bocanegra. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Melanie Padilla. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Stephanie Amaya. From Mr. Duong's class, Jasmine Tercios. From Miss Sin's class, Pedro Del Rio. From Mr. Britton's class, Elias Olivo. And from Miss Hunter and Mr. Santamaro's class, Navea Hernandez. Congratulations to our Leadership Award winners. Our next award is our Citizenship Award. Our Citizenship Award goes to, in Mrs. Gomez and Miss Alhilu's class, Kekoa Ruano. From Mrs. James' class, Ashley Atkins. From Mrs. Gallardo's class, Elena Gonzalez. From Mrs. K's class, Elisabella Lopez. From Mrs. Fong's class, Isabella Castillo. From Mrs. Garcia's class, Ricardo Martinez. From Mr. Aguilar's class, Carla Garcia. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Crystal Gonzalez. From Miss Overby and Miss Miss Manzanilla's class, Malia Alvarez. From Miss Renjifo's class, Brian Lopez. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Jocelyn Cortez. From Mr. Duong's class, Kimberly Alejo. From Miss Sin's class, Desiree Reyes. And from Mr. Britton's class, Christopher Villanueva. Congratulations to our citizenship winners. For our next award, it's going to be Most Improved. These students show a lot of improvement throughout the school year. From Maestra Gomez and Maestra Alhilu's class, Jaime Munoz. From Mrs. James' class, Adrian Gonzalez. From Mrs. Gallardo's class, Ezekiel Beltran. From Mrs. K's class, Janae Gonzalez. From Mrs. Fong's class, Valentina Saplina. From Mrs. Garcia's class, Mario Garcia. From Mr. Aguilar's class, Jimena Santis. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Scott Wood. From Mrs. Overby and Miss Manzanilla's class, Briseida Juarez. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Jacqueline Alvarez. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Jennifer Diaz. From Mr. Duong's class, Rachel Herrera. From Miss Sin's class, Jonathan Gonzalez. From Mr. Britton's class, Olondra Mesa. And from Miss Hunter and Mr. Santamaro's class, Uriel Alvarez. Congratulations to our most improved winners. All right, moving on. Our academic award. Our Academic Achievement Award goes to, from Miss Gomez and Miss Alhulu's class, Nikolay Mikhailov. From Mrs. James's class, Natividad Batista. From Mrs. Gallardo's class, Jace Roberts. From Mrs. K's class, Jericho Fernandez. From Mrs. Fong's class, Kayla Castillon. From Mrs. Garcia's class, Stephanie Ramirez. From Mr. Aguilar's class, Leonardo Contreras. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Tammy Nguyen. From Mrs. Overby and Miss Manzanilla's class, Zoe Jimenez. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Vicente Marcelo. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Nate Huynh. From Mr. Duong's class, Salvador Guerrero. From Miss Sin's class, Alonso Nelson. And from Mr. Britton's class, Miranda Deanda. Congratulations to all our Academic Achievement Award winners. All right. After Academic Achievement Award, we have some honor roll and principal list winners. Now, these are just for our 7th and 8th grade, because when they move into 7th and 8th grade, they get actual grades of A, B, C, D, and F, just like in the high school. So the kids who've hit honor roll have hit a 3.0 to a 3.49 average all year long. That means they got a B average on all their classes they took with their teachers. So for honor roll, for 7th grade, we have Ruben Cortez, Jr., Dennis Escobar, Yesenia Fonseca, Jonathan Gonzalez Corona, Jessica Gonzalez Curiel, Sebastian Palafox Becerra, Tyler Kwok, Kelly Sandoval Solorzano, Jaden Trong. For 8th grade honor roll, we have Jonathan Jimenez Santiago, Alondra Mesa, Jocelyn Sandoval Gill, who got it for both all year long, Ruben Thor Jr., who got it all year long, and Christopher Villanueva. Congratulations to the honor roll. Now for principals lists. Principals lists are for students who had a 3.5 to a 4-point average, one or both the semesters while they were in the STEM Academy. This is an A average all year long, or one semester. For 7th grade, Pedro Del Rio Lozoya, Emily Nguyen, Alonso Nelson, Gabriel Aranda. For 8th grade, Steve Ceja, Emiliano Deanda Garcia, Miranda Deanda Garcia, Levi Gallegos, Angelina Garcia, Neil Huynh, Stacy Miranda Rodriguez, Elias M. Olivo, Dylan A. Solorio, Christopher Villanueva, and Alondra Mesa. Congratulations to our honor roll and principal list winners. I then now want to present 2 special awards. For our students who are learning a second language, who start off learning one language and learning English as their second language, the goal is always to get at least bilingualism, to be strong both in your home language as well as in English. This past year, there are 2 students in the 8th grade who've shown enough proficiency in the English language to pass the yearly LPAC tests to show that they're both now bilinguals. So for in the 8th grade, we'd like to celebrate their certificate of English proficiency to Itzel Castro Luna and to Dylan Solorio. Congratulations to them both. Finally, our last award for this morning is the Perfect Attendance Award. These students had perfect attendance all year long. They never missed a day of school, and they were not tardy to class. Those are the two factors you need to get perfect attendance for the whole school year. So I'm going to announce them now. From Senora Gomez's and Senora Ahulu's class, Nathan Vasquez, Axel Lopez, Nikolay Mikhailov, Kekoa Ruano. From Mrs. James' class, Josiah Cesar Alhambra and Blake Gonzalez. From Mrs. Gallardo's class, Kenneth McLeod, Oliver Simpson. From Mrs. K's class, Shayla Chavez, Silas Chavez, Jericho Fernandez, Ian Garden, Nikita Nagy. From Ms. Garcia's class, Sofia Garcia Ruiz, Sofia Salazar Salas, Ascension Cepeda. From Mr. Aguilar's class, Javier Martinez Flores, Daniel Medell. From Mrs. Roberts' class, Quillen Dawson, Jesse Fajardo. From Miss Overby and Miss Manzanilla's class, Ingrid Arciosa, Zoe Jimenez, Kaden Nguyen, Philip Vu. From Mrs. Renjifo's class, Eric Garcia Ruiz, Giovanni Madriz, Diego Huizar, Brian Lopez, Estefania Maya Cruz. From Mrs. Piazzola's class, Victoria Contreras, Yen Ho. For Mr. Duong's class, Leslie Garcia Almanza. From Mrs. Sin's class, Sebastian Palafox Becerra, Jaden Trong. And from Mr. Britton's class, Samuel Romero Beltran, Angelina Garcia, Stacy Miranda Rodriguez, and Christopher Villanueva Saucedo. Congratulations to our perfect attendance winners and to all of you who received an award today. If you didn't get an award today, that's okay, because you get to try again next year. Ask your teacher what it takes to win an award if there's a special award that you want. But congratulations to those who've earned it today. For award winners, you can talk to your teacher and how to pick it up. If not, it's going to be in your teacher's box in our breezeway to pick up for you. Congratulations. Give everybody a round of applause for all your hard work. Keep up the hard work. We only have a few more days to go. We are all so proud of you. So have a good week, and I'll see you in your classes. Bye, Kai.